We thought that, student housing was in a terrible state, that it's really going to go into the shitter. But how much? Well, the fuckery never ends. So the issuance of student visas, that's the government of Canada, issues student visas for students to come in from other countries, is officially down 97%, like from the peak in 2023, 24.
Okay, so get this. Between December 2023 and November 2025, Canada lost nearly 274,000 international students. Just gone. That's more than a quarter of them. Disappeared in 2 years. But here's the really crazy part. Last November, only 2,485 new students showed up. December 2023, over 95,000 students arrived in that single month. We're talking about a 97% collapse. 97%. The government just cut the 2026 target to 155,000 students, literally half of what they were planning for 2025. And Toronto's housing market, it's freaking out right now. What's happening isn't just a correction. It's a complete reshaping of how rental housing works in this city. Let me walk you through what just went down because this is wild. All right, so here's the timeline. January 2024, the federal government drops the first bomb. They cap international student admissions at 360,000 for the year. That's 35% less than 2023. Everyone's like, okay, that's significant but manageable. Then September 2024 rolls around. They cut another 10% off the 2025 target, down to 305,000 students. People start getting nervous. November 2025, the government absolutely nukes it. The 2026 target cut in half, down to 155,000. And they're not stopping there. They're planning to keep it at around 150,000 for 2027 and 2028 too. Now think about Toronto for a second. U of T, Team U, York, Seneca, George Brown, Humber. This city is basically built on student housing. And according to the data, 60% fewer international students arrive in the first 9 months of 2025 compared to 2024. That's roughly 150,000 students who just didn't show up. These aren't just numbers. Each one of those students was supposed to rent an apartment, a condo, a basement unit, something. They were the tenants keeping thousands of landlords afloat. The government says they're restoring balance and sustainability to immigration. Fine. But for Toronto's housing market, this is a massive demand shock happening faster than anyone thought possible. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in real neighborhoods. Downsview, right next to York University. Vacancy rate in 2023, 0.7%. Basically nothing available. Last year, 3.1%. Think about that from a landlord's perspective. You bought a condo thinking students would be lining up forever. Zero vacancy, constant demand, easy money. Then in 2 years, everything flips. Toronto's overall vacancy rate hit 3% in 2025. Downtown specifically, 2.8%. I know that doesn't sound dramatic, but in a city where landlords were used to bidding wars and instant leases, this is basically an earthquake. And rents? They're dropping. The average condo rent fell to $2,589 in Q2 2025, down 4.5% from the year before. That's a 3-year low. Now landlords are doing things they never had to do before. Free month of rent, moving allowances, cash bonuses just a sign. In Q2 2025, 65% of buildings were offering incentives. A year earlier, only 36%. When you factor in these incentives, the real cost of getting a tenant, effective rents dropped 7.2% year over year. That's massive. Here's a specific example. One-bedroom condos averaged $2,259 a month between January and August 2025. Only 9.7% of them leased above asking price. Remember 2022? 2023? People were offering hundreds over asking just to secure a place. Now landlords can't even get their list price. Rental agents are telling me units are sitting for 3 to 5 weeks before leasing. Every week that goes by, the landlord is paying the mortgage, the condo fees, the property taxes, all with no rental income coming in. And here's the thing that people forget. Universities don't have enough resident space. Most international students had to rent privately. They were the reliable, year-round tenants landlords counted on. Now those tenants aren't coming. The math just doesn't work anymore. Hey, quick thing. If this breakdown is making sense and you want to stay on top of what's happening in Toronto's market, hit subscribe. All right, let's talk about why investors are legitimately panicking right now. This is where things get genuinely ugly. Toronto's condo market was built on a specific model that worked for years by pre-construction. Wait 3 to 4 years. Close on a unit. Rent it out to international students or temp workers. Use that rent to cover your mortgage and fees. Maybe break even, maybe make a little profit, but mostly just wait for appreciation. Simple. Worked great. Until it didn't. When interest rates went from under 2% during the pandemic to 4%, 5%, sometimes higher, the entire model exploded. By 2023, research from CIBC and Urbanation showed something shocking. 77% of Toronto investors with new condo mortgages were losing money every month. Not breaking even, losing money. The average? $597 negative cash flow per month. 3 out of every 4 investors were underwater. Just bleeding cash. So what did they do? A lot of them gave up and sold. Downtown Toronto saw condo prices drop 1.7% in November 2025. Across the GTA, down 8.7% year over year. Sales absolutely tanked. Only about 18,000 condo apartments and townhomes sold between January and October 2025. That's down almost 12% from 2024. Even developers are getting crushed. Between 2024 and 2025, 18 condo projects got canceled outright. Another 20 went into receivership or had to pivot to rental buildings. Construction starts collapsed to levels we haven't seen since 1995. TD Economics came out and basically said, yeah, condos could fall another 10% this year. They're projecting total declines of 15 to 20% from peak. And those tiny micro condos? The 400 square foot shoebox units that investors snapped up? They're getting absolutely destroyed. The Bank of Canada released data showing that micro units make up 60% of new condos hitting the market. But only 30% of actual buyers want micro units. Massive mismatch. Too much supply of something most people don't want. Here's the brutal truth. International students weren't just tenants. They were the demand that made the whole investor-condo model viable. Without them, it's just a broken business model with negative cash flow and falling prices. So where does this leave us in 2026? Well, the bleeding hasn't stopped. The Toronto Real Estate Board reported that January 2026 sales fell 19.3% year over year. Only 3,082 transactions. Average price dropped 6.5% to $973,289. But here's where it gets interesting and kind of weird. While the rental market is soft now, construction has collapsed so hard that Toronto might actually face a serious housing shortage by late 2026 or 2027. New condo completions are expected to drop to around 18,000 units in 2026. That's almost half of what we saw in 2025. Why? Developers can't get financing. Banks typically want 70% of units pre-sold before they'll release construction money. And right now, nobody's buying pre-construction. In Toronto, 55% of pre-con units went unsold in Q1 2025. So all this supply flooding the market right now, this is the last wave. Once it gets absorbed, and experts think that could happen by mid-2026, inventory is going to tighten fast. But here's the problem. Demand isn't coming back. With only 155,000 international students coming in 2026 and 150,000 per year after that, we've lost the tenant base that propped up this market for years. Realtors are saying downtown condos will stay buyer-friendly through early 2026. Prices will probably flatline for 2, maybe 3 years. Some analysts don't see values recovering until 2028 at the earliest. First-time buyers? You might actually catch a break here. Softer prices, motivated sellers, room to negotiate without getting into bidding wars. Investors? They're sitting on the sidelines. The numbers just don't pencil out anymore. And that's why everyone, homeowners, renters, investors, is on edge right now. This wasn't just a policy change on paper. The 2026 student cuts removed the entire foundation that Toronto's rental market was built on. Landlords are offering incentives they never needed before. Investors are bleeding cash every month. And the students who were supposed to fill all these units, they're just not coming. If you're anywhere near Toronto's rental market, whether you own, rent, or invest, the game just changed. In 2026, that's when we're all going to find out what the new rules actually look like. This story's just getting started.